All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to our monthly YouTube live session. We're in August now, and if you're just joining for the first time, thank you very much. I do these every single month, and basically we're going to go ahead and answer all of your questions on today's session. If you guys are returning for another episode, thank you very much for coming back. I'm going to give it a few seconds for people to go ahead and load. Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and I'm coming in clear. If you have any problems, feel free to let me know. If you're watching live, you can actually join in on the chat, which is going to be on the side of your window if you're on desktop, or down at the bottom if you're on mobile. And if you guys are watching after the fact on YouTube, you can always check out the live chat. You obviously won't be able to comment, but you can leave a comment below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So I see some familiar names. Jeff, nice to see you again. And feel free to let me know, chime in where you guys are coming from. And I'm Harry. I'm here in Los Angeles. So today's session, we're going to go over a couple top news stories that we've seen lately with Uber and Lyft, a couple app updates. I've seen a couple tests that Uber and Lyft is doing, and then we'll dedicate a majority of the session to basically question and answer. So we'll go ahead and you'll be able to ask me any questions that you might have. So start thinking about those questions and definitely save them up. And at the end, of course, as always, we'll be doing a nice little giveaway. I'm trying to think, I've got a book right here. So we'll be doing a giveaway of my new book. We usually give out a few copies at the end. So I think today, make sure you stay tuned to the end. If you haven't got a copy of my new book, we'll be giving away a few copies of the new book. And as always, you can also get them in the stores or on Amazon.com. So looks like we've got a few drivers, a bunch of drivers here. So this is awesome. Jeremiah from West Virginia, John Lewick from Boynton Beach, Christopher from Krakow, Poland. All right, Chris, I think you win for being the furthest away. So thank you very much for joining. We were going an hour early today. I don't know if anybody noticed, but just mixing things up. And, I want to start off by going over a couple top news stories. So I think the big one that we saw most recently, just last week, is actually Uber in New York City sort of lost this battle for capping the number of Uber licenses. And we've got a good post on the rideshareguy.com from our very own Christian Perea, who's actually in the comments right now. I'll leave a link to the article he wrote about this situation in New York City. And you can read a little bit more about that if you're interested. And hey, Christian, he's also in the comments. But basically what happened is that the city of New York is going to limit the number of Uber licenses that are allowed on the street. So it's important to note they're not limiting the number of drivers, but they're limiting the number of licenses. And there's currently about 60,000 Uber cars on the street. So there's quite a few, but I think what we're going to see Uber this, I think they're worried that this is going to affect riders, but also that this may affect, basically other cities might see this and they might basically, enact similar legislation. So it's really the first time that we've seen something kind of this sweeping. And I think that, as Christian did a good job pointing out in his article, is actually pretty driver friendly. One thing to keep in mind is that as drivers, we actually want to be out driving at times where there are as few drivers on the road as possible, right? That means more requests for us and more surge pricing. So really limiting the cap, I think a lot of drivers were for it, probably a little bit more selfishly than anything. But I mean, hey, I understand, right? Once you become a driver, at a certain point, you don't want more and more drivers to join. And so I think that this cap may actually end up benefiting drivers. And then, of course, as part of this legislation, there was also a minimum wage component. I'm curious to know what you guys think of the minimum wage component, because what this is going to do is sort of guarantee drivers a minimum wage based on utilization. And I think this policy actually makes a lot of sense. So as Christian is saying in the comments, he says Uber is actually already talking about they're going to allow certain drivers to share each other's cars to sort of get around this new requirement. So let's say you're a driver and you only do Monday through Friday. Uber's actually going to try and sync you up with another driver, since they can add as many drivers as they want, but not more cars. And you can actually rent out your car now to someone else. So we'll see how that goes. Christian says, I don't think I'd let anyone borrow mine, and that it's an earnings floor. So that's an interesting story to keep in mind. Looks like we got a bunch of people joining now. So Scott from Detroit, And I see a couple questions coming in. Art from Atlanta, awesome. I'm glad to see all of you guys. And as mentioned, we're going to go over a couple top news stories, a couple of the latest app updates, and then we'll get into the question and answer, and we'll go for about an hour. And definitely make sure you guys stay tuned to the end, because we will be giving away a few copies of my new book. So awesome. So that's one story that we've seen. And then I also want to talk about a couple of new app updates. So there was a good video. I'm going to leave a link here in the show notes from another YouTuber. And I believe it's Uber Driver 101. But basically, he highlighted the fact that in certain cities, Uber is testing a new feature that gives you insight into how far and which direction a ride is going. And I'm in LA, and I've got the new Uber Driver app now, but I haven't been able to see this. I went driving Saturday night. I didn't see this, so I'm not sure what cities it's in. We're doing a little research on this right now. We'll probably have an article out on the rideshareguy.com next week. But basically, what it looks like, it tells you, when the request comes in, it says this trip is headed 16 minutes northeast. So it's not the ETA, right? It tells you how far away the ride is, 5 minutes, but then it also says that where sort of general direction of where the trip is headed and how long it'll be. So pretty interesting feature, and Lyft is actually testing a very similar feature too. So I'm assuming that they're going to tie it into, if you're a good driver and you have high ratings, or if you have high acceptance rating or low cancellation rating, they're going to start to give you some more of this data so that you don't, cherry pick it. Chap says, are you going to talk about the new app and how well and bad it works? Sure, that's a great idea. So yeah, I went out driving Saturday night. I just recently got the new Uber Driver app, and there's a lot there. We'll have a couple of videos and a couple articles coming out, but you can look. We've got a couple old posts about the new Uber Driver app. Christian, maybe you can share a link to that in the live chat. I know you or I did a recap of that. But I mean, for the most part, the new Uber Driver app, I would say after using it this past weekend, it definitely is cleaner. So I think that, if you would have, when Uber announced that they were doing this new driver app, I mean, they kind of botched the whole announcement. But once I got over that fact and I started thinking about it, I was thinking to myself, does Uber even really need a new Uber Driver app? But, once you start using the new Uber Driver app, you start to see that, hey, there were all these things that actually were kind of a hassle. Like the surge is now a lot clearer. So the way that they display surge in the new app is actually integrated into the map. All of those notifications and cards that used to pop up, and then the ones that you would need, you couldn't find. It's sort of now Uber uses an inbox system. And so it's a lot more neatly organized. You can also see your earnings right there on the front screen, which is basically the exact same way that Lyft does it. And so, definitely some good features that they've added. And I guess what I would say is that there's a whole lot of stuff they added that, I didn't think I needed as a driver, but now that I've gone out and done some driving with the new Uber Driver app, I'm sort of thinking to myself, okay, yeah, that was actually something that's useful. One thing I don't like about the new Uber Driver app is what they call opportunities. And basically, I posted a screenshot of this on my Facebook page Saturday night. But basically what this is it's a feature that says, it kind of says, hey, there are a bunch of requests in an area nearby. Do you want to navigate there? And if you guys have watched my channel for any period of time, you know that I always tell drivers not to chase the surge, right? You learn this pretty quickly. And so this feature sort of feels like they're encouraging drivers to chase the surge, but there's no surge, right? And so you can imagine if they're sending all these opportunities to drivers and saying, hey, go drive to this area where you have a better chance of getting a request. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily trust them. And while I was driving Saturday night, for example, I got 2 notifications or 2 opportunities that said you can drive to this area. I didn't do it because I didn't trust them. And within a few minutes, those opportunities were gone, right? So I guess the request volume had gone back down. I was also at one point I was sitting in a high request area, and I don't know, I still had to wait a few minutes. So I don't know that I got one any sooner or slower. So, definitely, I think that's kind of a quick wrap up of, the new Uber Driver app. Rifa says, the feature showing where a passenger is going sounds amazing. And I totally agree. I think that I'm 100% sure that this isn't a feature Uber is going to go give to every driver, since I think a lot of people would then abuse it. But I suspect if you have some sort of metrics, you're a high rated driver, basically if you're a good or a loyal driver, I think that they'll give you that. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think that if you are a loyal driver, or if you have a high rating, rating, or if you're basically a better driver than other people, you should get financially rewarded. And I think that reminds me of an article that we just wrote about called the Uber Rider Preferred Program. So I'm going to pull this up right now. And basically, this is another new program that Uber wrote an article about it. I've got it right here. And that's a cool one because it actually rewards the top rated drivers and gives them a little extra dollar tip, I think, for a couple months. So seems like Uber is actually definitely starting to test some programs that will reward better drivers, reward more loyal drivers. So definitely interesting. Crystal says, I don't want my rider to see my income. So one of the cool things about the new driver app is that there's a privacy mode. So, at the end of every ride, it tells you how much you made, or you can have a running count of the day, or you can have a running count of the week. So it's cool because there's 3 options, but you can also click, there's a little eye with a line through it, and you click that and it goes into privacy mode, so then your passenger can't see it. And either way, it shows up after the ride is over. So let's see, I'm curious to know if anyone else is testing the new Uber driver app. I'd love to hear your feedback. David says, I've had problems with the app crashing too. I use Pandora, and I've got a new app called Radar that bot that tells me about the speed and stoplight cameras. That sounds interesting. And let's see, we've got some other questions. R. Weinstein, that's a good question. I'll definitely answer that one later. Right now, I want to talk about the new Uber driver app. Part-timer says it crashes a lot with Maestro. So it definitely depends. I've found that when you're running all these different apps at once, you really want to have a newer phone, a first year or sort of second generation model. Otherwise, it can be a little dicey. Mass Rideshare guy says, I'm told that Uber does not let you see your cancellation rating any longer. Is that true? And so that is true about the new Uber driver app. They don't show your cancellation percentage anymore, but at the same time, that is something you can technically get deactivated for if you're canceling a ton of rides. But you also don't know, you could say that, all right, your cancellation percentage is at 5%, but you don't really know that. It doesn't really affect much unless Uber also tells you, okay, the average in your city is 10%, you're at 20%. You're going to get deactivated, but they don't give you that information either. So I don't know if it's a huge deal that the cancellation percentage is no longer in the app, but I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. So feel free, you guys can chime in. Jamseed says, does the new app provide clear breakdown of how much Uber gets? Because I've read in articles it's not transparent. So it actually is transparent how much Uber takes from the ride. It probably is just going to piss you off how much they take because it's a lot. And this is something we've covered extensively. And in the new Uber driver app, it's not front and center. So when you click, let's say you do a trip and then you click on the details, you sort of have to click one more button, and it kind of within the app, you're still in the app, but it takes you to another page. And then that's where you can see how much the rider paid, how much Uber took, and all of that other information. So I think that kind of covers it for the new driver app. There's a whole lot more. We're gonna have a ton of content with the new driver app. I know this is gonna be rolling out. So, I see a lot of great questions coming on right now. So I wanna go ahead and get to the Q&A portion. But before I do that, I actually want to mention a company that's now sponsoring the YouTube channel. It's called Rideshare Night. And they're actually one of the first companies to offer rideshare drivers extended warranties and service contracts for your vehicle. So I don't know if you guys know this, but most regular extended and manufacturer warranties, they won't cover your vehicle for commercial use. So if you're driving for Uber and Lyft or delivering, that action, you'll probably go above the mileage limits anyways pretty quickly, but they won't be covered. So if you want a warranty, they'll actually cover, like a $3,000 to $5,000 blown transmission. Rideshare Night is a company we've been working with and recommending. I think they've got a great product for drivers, 0% financing, monthly payments for their vehicle service contracts. And it's available to most drivers depending on your vehicle, and it's not based on credits. They actually we talked to them and they just upped the mileage limit. So even if you have over 100,000 miles now, I believe you can still get a policy with them. And I think around $7 a month are some of their average policies. You can take it to any vehicle, licensed mechanic, dealership, service department. So head to ridesharenight.com, or we'll also, Christian, why don't you leave a link in the chat and we'll put it in the show notes too. All right, so I want to get back now to the Q&A. It looks like we've got some great questions coming in here. If you guys do have any questions about Rideshare Night or anything else, definitely let me know. So let's see. Christian says, any ASE mechanic. I don't know what ASE stands for, but I think that's a good thing. So Christian, why don't you leave a link right now in the chat for if people want to sign up with Rideshare Night. All right, so let's see. We've got some great questions. Riff for All Games says, would you pick up a passenger who is wearing a mask? And so I'm assuming that you're meaning kind of one of those surgical masks that people sometimes wear when they're sick. And if you ever traveled to Asia, a lot of Asian countries, people wear them all the time when they're out. So I don't have any problem with this. I think that if actually it's kind of courteous, if you're sick, you know, most people in the US don't do this, but outside of the US, I think people are more courteous. And when they are sick, they often wear a surgical mask, or people that don't want to get sick wear surgical masks. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you're talking about a Halloween mask, then I also wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, I think it's kind of weird, and you know, anyone that I just left the link for Rideshare Night, by the way. So anyone that I think is wearing, you know, kind of a Halloween mask or something like that, it's just a little weird. I mean, you guys, you know, if you do enough rides, if you do hundreds and then you do thousands of rides, you're always bound to get like that weird passenger. But I don't know, I don't really have a problem with weird passengers. It's the one that are like so drunk, you know, that they're, you know, being kind of aggressive. If they're obnoxious, whatever, if they're weird, that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with those passengers. It's the ones who are like, you know, trying to fight you or something like that. Those are typically the problems that I have. So Ed says he'd be okay with it as long as it was Halloween. So I guess if you get into a mask in Ed's car and it's not Halloween, he'll kick you out. Eric says aloha. So it sounds like, Eric, you're chiming in from Hawaii. I think we've chatted before. And let's see, we've got a question from Antonio. He says, how much can a newbie make driving for Lyft? I'm trying to save for a vacation. Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty loaded question, but it really depends on your market. If you're in a super busy market like LA and San Francisco and you're willing to drive full time, I think $1,000 a week should definitely be your goal. If you're more of a part-timer though, or you know, someone sort of, if you're thinking about the average driver, I know that Uber released some stats, and when we've surveyed drivers, it looks like the average driver makes about $300 to $400 a week. So I mean, obviously there's a lot behind that. It depends on your goals and your part-time. But I think if you're trying to save up for a small vacation, Uber and Lyft are sort of the perfect, you know, side gig or avenue to do it. I like, you know, whenever I kind of have a savings goal in mind, as soon as I cash out my money, whether it's with Instant Pay or Lyft's Instant Pay, you know, I like kind of immediately funneling that, right? If I have a savings goal in mind, I'll go out and work, cash that money out, and then immediately put it into a separate, you know, like I'll create a new checking account with my Ally online. So kind of do something simple, but basically keep that money separate. So if you guys do have vacation goals or whatever it might be, just your daily rent or bills, whatever it might be, I think that's kind of a good strategy to use. So hopefully that helps. Uber NYC says, do you think that the cancellation not showing on the new app will affect the drivers somehow? Sits drivers up. I'm not sure what that means, but basically to your question, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal that Uber doesn't show the cancellation percentage, because I mean, they've really gotten rid of a lot of those requirements. You know, they don't even require acceptance rate anymore for, you know, Uber Quest, for example, right? So, you know, the cancellation rate is important, and they would give you your percentage beforehand, but the percentage itself doesn't mean much. It's really more if you're canceling a lot of trips and you're starting to get text messages and emails and things like communications from Uber saying you're canceling too many rides. That's when you want to start to slow down, because we definitely, you know, drivers can and do often get deactivated if they're canceling too many rides. And honestly, you really shouldn't be canceling more than, you know, 1 every 5 or 1 every 10 rides. So hopefully that helps. And let's see, Crystal says, why is delivery option only showing up for me lately? So I assume that you're referring to the Uber driver app and, you know, Uber Eats. Obviously, if you're driving for Uber Eats and UberX, you have 2 different options that you can check off in the preferences. And you can say, I want to be online for UberX, or I want to be online for Uber Eats, or both off, or whatever you want. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening, Crystal, but it may be that you have a document that's expired, or maybe your background check had to be rerun, something where you can still drive for Uber Eats. But maybe if you had your background check, so for example, right, if your background check is being rerun, maybe you can't do UberX at that time, but you can do Uber Eats. So I would definitely reach out to Uber. You can either reach out to them through the Uber driver app, or you can also, you know, go into a green light hub. You can call them if you have 24-hour support available. So I'll leave a link right now for you, Crystal. where you can actually, we've got an article on the top ways Uber. So let's see right here. So I'll leave a link for you in the chat. Okay, so good questions coming in, and let's see. All right, I saw that Robert says, shoot, YouTube, notify me of the time change of this live stream. Yeah, so if you guys are subscribed to this channel, you can turn on notifications, and then that way you'll get a notification whenever we do a live stream. Alternatively, if you're signed up for our email list, we also send out emails to people who have opted in, so that's another option. R. Weinstein says, will you please discuss the low fares close to what a Mighty Data reported and the likelihood of getting fare adjustments in a small market like Tallahassee, Florida? So I'm not 100% sure what that question is asking. Let's see. Will you please discuss the low fares close to what a Mighty Data reported? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but feel free to rephrase it. As far as fare adjustments, you may be talking about an article we just wrote. If you guys do ever have any issues, so one of the articles that Christian just wrote that he can leave a link to in the live chat was basically about how you can actually ask Uber for a fare adjustment. And this happens in cases, a lot of these drivers that are on new surge or what we call penny surge, where they're paying a fixed amount. So instead of getting 2 or 3 or 4x times your surge, they're now in some cities paying only $4 extra or $5 extra on the ride. And a lot of drivers do not like this new surge. And so some we've seen are actually kind of when there are rides where, let's say it's a long ride and they only get a $5 surge adjustment, but maybe Uber takes a huge cut, they're actually emailing in or, basically going through the Uber driver app and requesting a fare adjustment. We've seen actually a lot of drivers having success. So hopefully that is what you're asking, and that makes sense. Let's see, R. Weinstein also asked, how many hours a week do you typically work? Well, so my full-time job is now running the blog, running the YouTube channel, and everything else that we do. But definitely I'm still out there, try to drive at least once every week or two and trying out all the new services. I've been doing a lot of bird charging lately, so you guys have probably seen me talking about that. Uber and Lyft, of course, are sort of like the core of what we do. I actually just signed up today for Ease, so I might try out like this marijuana delivery service here in LA. So trying out a lot of services too, in addition to, occasionally doing the Uber and Lyft. Let's see. John says, should I opt in to Uber Eats? I already do Postmates. So I think the nice thing about Uber Eats is that, typically I think you can make more with Postmates and DoorDash than Uber Eats, but it's just so easy to basically sign up with Uber Eats. I mean, it's basically just like opting in. Since you're already approved for UberX, they'll easily approve you for Uber Eats. So, I mean, it can't hurt if there's slow times or maybe you want to be really picky. Uber Eats trips counts towards Quest. So there's definitely a lot of benefits and bonuses there. But I mean, I don't think it's going to, there's no big surge pricing or anything like that on Uber Eats, but maybe if it's really slow and you don't mind doing an Uber Eats delivery, then you can always add that. Let's see. Robert says, Lyft put me on a 25-minute timeout for canceling. So I'm assuming that you're talking about you're canceling, you accept a ride and then you cancel it. I've never heard of Lyft putting drivers on timeouts, but this is definitely something that Uber does. So you can actually, on Uber, you get a request, you can ignore as many requests as you want. So your acceptance rate doesn't matter. But if you do ignore 2 to 3 requests in a row, sometimes Uber will put you on a timeout. I've never heard of Uber putting you on a timeout for canceling too many rides, but it sounds like this may have happened to you on Lyft, Robert. So I'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about that. Let's see. Jeff says, weed on wheels. I guess you're referring to my geez, I can't talk right now. What's this damn company called? Ease. Okay. All these companies are 4 letters. Have you guys ever noticed that? Uber, Lyft, Juno, Ease. I guess not Postmates and DoorDash, but anyways. Christian says, I've tried out Ease as a customer, and I'm sure you have. So let's see. Gabrielle, this is a good question. He says, what can a new driver do to ensure profitability during his career and that he doesn't quit? Well, I mean, I guess I would say to start, this job is not for everyone, right? I think that's one of the things that I kind of like to reiterate. I don't like to tell people, hey, you should go out and do this job and never quit. I think everyone should try it, and everyone should kind of give their full effort and do everything they can to maximize their profits. But at the end of the day, if you don't like dealing with passengers, if you don't like driving the times that are most profitable, it may not be the perfect job for you. So I can't guarantee that you won't quit. But as far as ensuring profitability, I think that's key. When you're first getting started, finding those busy times, when are customers requesting the most number of rides, right? In my book, I say, always to follow the alcohol, right? Friday, Saturday nights when people are out drinking, holidays, events, right? That's kind of the easy starting place. But I think once you start to kind of mature as a rideshare driver, you also want to start thinking about, okay, it's important to understand when are riders making lots of requests, but what are those times where drivers may not be out in full force, right? A lot of drivers know Friday, Saturday nights, those are the money makers. So there's a lot of ride requests, but there's also a lot of drivers out. And this is what I talk about, in my course and my book and in a lot of my videos, is that you want to think about times and places where other drivers may not be out driving. So Sunday morning, we call them the walk of shame rides. A lot of drivers stay out late on Saturday night, and I've often seen surge Sunday mornings for an hour or two. There's no traffic during those times. The passengers are super chill because they're hungover, right? If you don't mind getting up early AM or airport runs, right, 4 to 7 a.m., I mean, there's really no other reason to be up that early. There's no traffic, it's quiet, it's dark, and a lot of people are going longer distances to those airports, right? If you have Uber Select, you can make money there too. So that's sort of what I would start to think about, and really kind of getting more cutthroat as a driver, right? There may be times and places where you may not want to take certain rides or go to certain places, and you're not going to be wanting to cancel every trip. But I know this is kind of a controversial strategy. We've got a few videos that Jay, one of our YouTube contributors, has talked about how he does this. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Antonio, another question says, well, let's see. Riffraff says morning driving is confirmed. That's the best driving time. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the nice things, is that you can kind of, a lot of, one of our best, Jay in San Francisco, he is earning $1,000 to $2,000 a week. He doesn't even drive nights. San Francisco is pretty unique because you can make a lot more money there in other cities, but you can definitely, kind of adapt things to your schedule. Christian says Monday morning, no drivers. I mean, a lot of drivers drive the whole week, and then they're trying to cram rides in on Saturday and Sunday, to get power driver bonus or to get Uber Quest. And then a lot of people take either Monday or even sometimes Sunday off. I found food delivery is, Sunday is actually the most profitable time for food delivery. So you can kind of see that it's all about understanding these patterns and these trends, and then figuring out how can I, as a driver, take advantage of that, right? Because if you're just going out and doing what everyone else is doing, you're only going to earn the average, right? But if you want to be above average and earn above average, you kind of have to think about some of that stuff. So let's see. Part-timer says 45-minute plus glitch. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. I think I read something about that, though, so feel free to refresh my memory. Al says, Harry, you're doing a guest appearance for Lyft in San Jose. And that is correct, actually. I should share a little info on that, give a quick shout out for that. If you guys are in San Jose, I'm going to this Lyft San Jose driver appreciation event. Lyft has actually very generously bought some of my books, and they're going to be giving them out to 200 drivers the first 200 drivers at the event. So I'll go ahead and leave that info right now in the chat. This is Thursday, 8/16, so it's coming up quick, but I think that's kind of cool. I'll be giving away, or they'll really be giving away 200 copies of the book, and I'll leave the address there. But I don't know if that was the question, but yes, I will be there. And it's kind of cool. Lyft is starting to do more of these driver appreciation events. So definitely I'm happy to be a part of that. Anything that kind of helps support drivers, or I think they're giving away free gas too. So if you guys don't care about coming to see me or my book, you should at least go to try and win some free gas. Hopefully that helps Al. But if any of you guys are in San Jose, or I guess the Bay Area, and happen to be in San Jose Thursday, it'd be cool if you guys showed up. And then that way there aren't a bunch of drivers like, why the hell would I want this guy's book? Let's see. R. Weinstein says, you're a marketing genius. I really admire the way you operate, therideshareguy.com. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just definitely trying to help you guys out as much as possible. All right, Antonio, I've been wanting to answer this question, so I'm glad you asked it again. Can you drive Lyft Express out of state? So I'm assuming you're referring to Lyft Express Drive, and I haven't read the terms and conditions for Lyft Express Drive, but that would be the best place to get that info. And I don't know if legally you can do it or not, but I know that if you don't care about the legality, or if you sort of just want to do it either way, you can drive for Lyft in other states. So I don't see any reason why, if you have a Lyft Express Drive car, you wouldn't be able to drive Lyft in another state. Now, it does get a little dicey with like insurance and things like that. And that's probably why, if you're really, want to double check things, you got to read the terms and conditions. It's probably a super long document, so I know it's kind of annoying, but, that's definitely something you can do with Lyft. Whereas with Uber, for example, you can't drive in other states for the most part. You can drop off in other states as long as you don't reach the maximum trip distance, which can be found on Uber's website or Lyft's website. But yeah, a little different policy there. Jonathan, looks like Jonathan and Christian, you guys are chatting about classification. I don't know if there's any questions there, but feel free to let me know. And Sleeping Elephant says, what if I am number 201 to the event in San Jose for the books? If you are number 201, you can let me know and email me, and I will personally send you a copy of the Rideshare guide. So how about that? Oh, Christian says he'll be at the event in San Jose too. So that's cool. Riffraff says, I'll see you there. Awesome. I'm looking forward. Definitely come up to me. And since I don't know what you guys look like, you guys know what I look like though. So definitely let me know. Scott says, where can I find some detailed info on how their algorithms may work? I'm sure it's based on many factors not understood. So if you're thinking about driver pay, right? I mean, drivers are paid on exact mileage and time, and if you have a base fare in your city, so you can actually always calculate how much you're earning as a driver. But if you're talking about their dispatch algorithms and maybe Uber Pool and how rides get assigned, it's gotten super confusing. So in the beginning, 4 or 5 years ago, Uber used to just, when a passenger requested a ride, Uber would send that ride to the closest driver. Lyft would use a combination of how long a driver had been waiting plus the proximity. So that was always the difference. Now, fast forward to today, Uber no longer uses that same algorithm. If you go out and you request a passenger and you have a driver right next to you, you probably tried to do it. Sometimes it takes a few tries, and sometimes you can't get them at all. So my hunch is that there's some combination of proximity, so how close you are. This is for Uber's algorithm. My guess is that it's proximity based, how long you've been waiting. And then I think there may be like an acceptance rate, cancellation rate, and also my fourth thing. So this is why I don't know for sure, to be honest. I've tried to test this a lot and I haven't been able to figure out. The fourth thing though that I think matters with Uber is if you're moving or not. So if you're headed towards a passenger, I think you may be more likely to get them. I don't know. It's tough though, because we don't know for sure. And there's like a lot of different experiments you would have to do to figure out. But if anyone works at Uber and wants to let me know, I'm definitely open to chatting. And you can let me know. So let's see what other, Jonathan says, Harry, the 45 plus notifications on Uber have been inaccurate lately. So to be honest, I haven't really heard this from a ton of drivers, but if you don't mind shooting me an email, this is something that we can definitely research. I think once you guys bring these issues to my attention, at that point, I'll really start paying attention. And if I see another driver confirm, right, if it's just a one-off thing, I sort of take it with a grain of salt. But once we can kind of confirm it from multiple drivers in multiple cities, then that's definitely something I can look into and might be interesting. Part-timer says, don't give away all my strategies. Well, if you guys watch my channel, then you know that I give away everything. Let's see. Ronald says, don't come to Vegas. Uber has too many drivers here. I mean, to be honest, I think that Uber has a lot of drivers in every city, in every state. This is one area, kind of, if you guys missed the beginning of the YouTube Live, I talked about Uber's new cap in New York City. I mean, oversaturation of drivers. This is, I think this is a big complaint and a big issue for drivers everywhere, in every city, in every state. Because when you think about it, right, Uber and drivers, they're always a little bit at odds, right? Uber wants the most reliable pickups ever, right? So when you're a passenger, Uber wants a passenger to see a car there, no surge pricing within 2 or 3 minutes. As a driver though, like I just said earlier, you want the opposite, right? You want as few drivers on the road, and you want as much surge pricing as possible. You sort of have like Uber and drivers on two different ends of the spectrum. And so that's where I think, like a regulator like New York City, right? If they come in and add smart regulations, it can actually sort of balance things and make sure that there are enough cars on the road, but hey, drivers aren't just going out there and sitting there waiting for rides. So I think this New York City ruling is going to be super important because other cities are definitely watching, and hopefully they'll enact similar kind of what I call smart regulation so that drivers aren't just going out there and kind of having to compete with tens of thousands of other drivers, like maybe what's happening in Vegas. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Amnesis Stasis says, we are losing Uber drivers to Lyft in large amounts here. I don't know what city you're referring to, but feel free to let me know. Jeff does say same in the ATL though, as far as the long ride notification, the times have been way off. So that's definitely interesting. I'll go ahead and make sure I take a look into that. David says, I don't think there's any place in the country where there aren't too many drivers, especially in the summer. And yeah, that's important to note. In the summer, you have a lot of teachers and people that are, I think there's a lot more people that are potentially looking for work, college students, right? Students in general. So I think we've always seen that summer tends to be, I don't know. I guess it's busy, but there's also sometimes more drivers. Uber and Lyft tend to ramp up hiring of drivers at the beginning of summer. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Scott says, thank you for the answer on the algorithm. Yeah, hopefully that definitely helps. And okay, R. Weinstein says, please talk about the low fares in small markets that are actually lower than the MIT report stated. Any strategy specifically for small markets, such as college towns? Well, I think you're referring to this MIT report. Initially, they came out and said that drivers are making $3.37 per hour, but there was an error in their calculations. I would know because they used my survey data. And basically, they found that I think drivers were making more like $10 to $12 an hour after expenses, which in a lot of places, that's going to be lower than minimum wage. And in smaller markets where it's not as busy, that's probably below average. So, I think that definitely, it's an issue. Uber and Lyft obviously are finding that they have enough drivers, low rates. Again, I think that's an issue that probably drivers in every city are complaining about. But I think as far as strategies specifically for small markets, I think you kind of have to understand that, the seasonal changes, or, if you're living in a college town, for example, Uber and Lyft, you probably shouldn't be depending on them during the summer, right? You kind of have to understand the patterns and the flows, and that when it is hot, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, the first couple weeks of the semester when everyone's going out and about, right? Those are the times you need to really take advantage of it. So if you're in a small town, I would you really have to kind of just think about the patterns and the schedules and things like that. When there is a small concert, you really have to be willing and ready and able to take advantage of those opportunities. Because, here in LA, for example, I could go out tonight and probably there's a million things going on and a million events going on. And there's all places all over the city that I could drive. I could probably turn my app on right now and get a ride within a few minutes. But I think in smaller towns, you can't do that. So you have to be a lot more strategic. Maybe you have food delivery, or maybe you can build a private clientele. We featured a really cool guest post from Jeff, I believe is his name, in the Midwest. I'm going to pull this up right now. Let's see, what was his post titled? And this was a great post because it was all about driving in a smaller market and kind of how he started his own rideshare business. So if you guys are interested in that, I just left a link in the chat where you can learn a little bit more about that. Let's see. Melody says, I love the Q&A sessions, Harry. I learn something new every time. I've been doing this for 2 years. Keep it up. Awesome. That is great to hear. Eric says, I love scheduled rides. So yeah, scheduled rides on Lyft I think are great because, when a passenger on Lyft schedules rides, you can actually go and reserve them ahead of time as a driver, whereas on Uber, they're sort of sent to drivers, just like any normal request. Like I was driving the other night and I got a ride request as normal, and it said that this person had scheduled the ride. So, it's not true scheduled rides basically with Uber, but it is with Lyft. So typically it might be longer rides, or it might be rides at like 4:30 a.m. I had a passenger actually email me just the other day, and he was worried that would there be a Lyft driver available, if he tries to schedule a ride at 4:15 a.m. So definitely there are times and places, where I think that you can definitely take advantage of that. So let's see. Jeff says, if I drive in SF but registered in LA, can I sign up for Lyft Power driver bonus? So I'm assuming you're meaning, yeah, I mean, as far as basically bonuses in another city. So you technically can't. I think you kind of have to change your city, your kind of home city. And we've got an article that we're working on that because Jay, who's in San Francisco, who does very well in San Francisco, we're trying to come up with, let's say we do have a driver in LA who wants to come up and drive in SF for a month. How would you do that? How do you go about changing your city and everything that is required there? So definitely stay tuned for that. Christy says, Harry, do you deliver for Postmates? So I've delivered for Postmates. Haven't done it in probably a while, probably over 6 to 12 months. But I've tried Postmates, I've tried DoorDash, and a lot of the other delivery services. I think in general, I found that Postmates and DoorDash tend to have the highest pay. And then we've got a bunch of contributors who have done articles on Postmates and DoorDash more recently. But I like that Postmates gives you a lot of info about the deliveries, and you have the opportunity, customers tip after delivery. So if you're going out there and doing a good job, my one tip to get more tips for Postmates is really to stay in communication with the with the passenger. If you're a courier, stay in communication with the passenger, right? I mean, I place a lot of orders as a customer because especially now that I've got a baby in the house, and there are a lot of times where I'm way too tired and lazy to cook. But, I will say that probably 95% of couriers on Postmates and DoorDash will never send a text to the customer. And there are times where, on the customer app, if a courier goes there and let's say the food isn't ready, it says on my app, the food is being picked up. And it might say that for 25 minutes. And I'm sitting there as a customer saying, hey, what the hell, what's going on, right? And all it would take is a simple text just to say, hey, I'm here, there's a long line, or whatever it might be. And I always leave a better tip. And I think a lot of customers are the same way. So hopefully that will help you there with Postmates. SD Ute fan says, I got a beacon, but I don't use it. Anyone want to buy it? Maybe post a listing on eBay. That could work. And let's see, Ryan's Place says, what drivers are getting the beacon in LA? So, I think Uber has actually kind of given up on the beacon. I don't know. I've noticed this thing that Uber does where they announce a new product like the beacon or the new driver app, and then it takes them like 3 to 6 months to roll it out, or sometimes they never roll it out at all. So I don't know. I'm kind of giving up on the beacon. I do think it's a cool idea and it helps, especially at places like airports and big events and things like that. But there's also third-party light-up signs that you can buy. And again, that's another way you're going to stand out from 80 to 90% of drivers if you kind of make a very small or simple investment like that. So definitely an opportunity that you can take advantage of there. Let's see. Simplify says, I got in an accident. A man blew a red light, T-boned. Car goes in the shop for a week, can't use a rental in Reno. Do I sue the driver for lost wages? So Simplify, this is actually a very, I'll say, unfortunately, it's kind of a common situation that I hear about. And it's, guys, this is super important. I'm glad this question, guys and girls, I'm glad this question was brought up because I get so many emails and messages from drivers who get into an accident, and then after they're in an accident, they realize, hey, my car is in the shop. Uber has a $1,000 deductible. Lyft has a $2,500 deductible, and now I don't have a car to make money. I can't use a rental car to drive for Uber and Lyft. Technically, you can sort of use it to do delivery, but that's another story. And so a lot of drivers are unfortunately, kind of screwed in this situation. Now, if the other driver was at fault and you get into a serious accident, you have a lot of recourse. So you can go after lost wages. You can get them to pay for your medical and a rental car and all that stuff. So I'm going to leave a link right now, how to handle an accident or how to handle rideshare insurance after an accident, basically with Uber or Lyft. And in that article, we've also got a free checklist because there's a lawyer that I've been working with. His name is Bryant at legalrideshare.com. And this guy is a really great resource for drivers. So if you've gotten into an accident and the other person was at fault, he'll basically swoop in. He works completely free and takes, his cut at the end. But, he's going to get you lost wages. He's going to negotiate with the insurance, negotiate with medical, get you doctors, all of that. And the reason why they can do that if the other person is at fault, because they can then go after that person's insurance, as opposed to if you're at fault, you have to pay for everything. So a lawyer probably isn't going to work with you in that case. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully simplify. I really hope you're doing okay, and you're not in too much pain, because it sounds like it was a little bit of a serious accident. So I see my first super chat came in. Awesome, Al, thank you very much. $4.99. I like how you put the $4.99. Not quite $5, but I like the $4.99. So that's awesome. I appreciate that. And let's see, what other questions do we have coming in? So Diaza says, Michigan is a no-fault state. How do we go about that in an accident? To be honest, I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm in California, so I've never had to deal with Michigan. But feel free to reach out to this lawyer that I recommended. His name is Bryant. Honestly, I love recommending him, because he'll take a lot of calls with drivers. He just is really looking to help. I mean, obviously he wants cases, but at the end of the day, he's been a really big proponent for rideshare drivers everywhere. Simplify, you say the police doesn't come with no injuries, but I recorded a confession. Okay, so that's good. I just did a video with Bryant at Legal Rideshare, and that's some of the things he recommends. If you guys do get into an accident, don't admit fault, don't say sorry, just get the information, call the police, get them to take a report, and they can assign blame and fault. Because then now that's all basically evidence and ammunition that you're going to have if you go either yourself or what I recommend, go through a lawyer, because they're the experts at this, and they basically do it for free. Because then they'll have a bunch of ammunition when they go to the insurance company and deal with them, and basically get all of the money back for you. So hopefully that helps. John says, "Oh, sweet, another $5 chat from SD Ute fan." So sorry, Al. Looks like SD Ute fan topped you by a penny. So I really appreciate that. And don't worry, at the end of our live session, I guess I'll be giving it all back in rideshare guides, right? So actually, we're moving pretty quick. We've got about, we've already been going for 48 minutes. So we've got 45 minutes. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So definitely get your final questions in. And as I mentioned, I'll be giving away a copy, 3 copies of my book, The Rideshare Guide, that you guys can check out. And SD Ute fan says, you helped me out a lot, and that's definitely what I'm here for. That's what Christian is here for. And of course, if we don't get to any questions in the YouTube Live, you can always leave a comment below if you're watching after, or send me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com. But for now, I want to answer some more questions. Christy says, is Caviar delivery based out of California? Yes. So we've got a bunch of articles on Caviar on the blog, and basically Caviar, they're based out of San Francisco, and they are available in a bunch of cities in LA, San Francisco. I'm sure there's others, but you can check their website. I'll leave a link to the articles that we've done on Caviar, and you guys can take a look there if you're interested in signing up for them. John says, has anyone else received an Uber Listen ride? So that'd be interesting, because Uber Listen is this program where they send out employees and basically listen to drivers, I guess, as the name might imply. I've never gotten an Uber Listen ride, but definitely something that could be pretty interesting, and a chance to give your feedback. It seems like Uber has really been pushing this thing with the new Uber driver app, that they listen to drivers and work with drivers. So hopefully Uber will do more of this in the future. Listen to what are drivers' biggest complaints. I would say I'd be curious to know from you guys, what you think the top complaints from drivers are right now. I think based off my experience and the drivers I'm talking to, it's probably low rates. Low rates, kind of oversaturation go hand in hand. Uber's commission, they're taking a bigger and bigger commission through upfront pricing. Uber Pool, nobody likes Uber Pool. Dealing with customer service, and also just the rating system in general. I think Uber can really do a lot to improve that there. So what's that? 5 things. So hopefully they'll address 1 of those 5, and then 2 of those 5, and work with drivers to address that. And that's definitely why we try to bring up these issues. I know the low rates have been an issue forever. That might be wishful thinking, but I still think that there are some other areas that they can improve. So let's see, we've got 5-star Andy says rates and commission. So it sounds like those are the 2 biggest issues for you. Craigslist says more money. Yeah, I think definitely money is at the top of the list for everyone. Surge way less now from amnesia stasis. Yeah, I totally agree. SD Ute fan says, when will we get more than 2 destination filters? I don't know if we'll get more than 2, but if you have Lyft available, I mean, they've got 6 destination filters, and Lyft isn't as busy in the smaller to mid cities. But if you're in a big city, you can actually really take advantage of these Lyft destination filters because they actually work, not as well as Uber's. You're not going to get matched as often, but it definitely helps. So I like this comment from David right here. He says, yeah, we got the new surge in Washington, D.C. area, and I have to say it definitely sucks. So definitely agree with you there. And I'm really hoping that Uber is not going to roll out this new surge to Los Angeles, or if they do, I hope that they make a bunch of improvements to it. Mr. Watson says, when are drivers going to get the new Uber driver app? And they announced it a while ago. I feel like it was like 4 or 5 months ago that they announced this new Uber driver app. I think it's now live in LA and San Francisco and a few others, Boston, maybe a few other cities and a bunch of smaller cities. But I think in the next month, almost everyone is going to be getting the new Uber driver app. I mean, I don't work at Uber, so I don't know, but I'll definitely ask them. Jonathan says, great recent article regarding upfront pricing. Appreciate it. Ronald says, Aon Affinity Insurance. So I'm assuming that you're referring to what is called the driver injury protection plan. So we've got an article about this. But basically what this is, it's kind of, Uber actually raised rates by about 5 cents in a lot of cities. And you may have noticed this in the past year, almost a lot of cities, they raised rates by about 5 cents. And now as a driver, you can opt into this injury protection plan. So if you do get injured while on the job, basically, while driving for Uber, they'll cover you. And I think they may cover wages, or there's some type of insurance program. I personally haven't opted into it, but that's an option that you can learn a little bit more about that. I know we've got a good article about it. This is another one of those things that I think they launched a long time ago and are, I've kind of like rolled it out here and there. So I found the article. Looks like Christian may have written it. So you can learn a little bit more about that. Leesom says, so I was wondering if you'd answer my question about riders who smelled like marijuana. So, this is definitely an issue, I would say, especially here in California. It's an issue, but it's also not a big deal. I think it can be a big deal. So it's an issue because, let's say you get a rider that comes into the car, they reek like marijuana. I mean, at that point, it's too late. There's not a whole lot you can do to proactively prevent someone that's high from getting in the car. I mean, I guess if somehow you called them or they weren't at their location and you kind of had a hunch that they were really high, then I guess you could cancel the ride, but it's going to be pretty hard to prevent a passenger from getting in the car that reeks of marijuana because once they're in it, the smell is there. And I mean, I think in general, anytime I have a kind of a stinky passenger or someone who smells like perfume or food, I always try to air the car out afterwards and maybe drive around the block an extra time before I pick up my next passenger with the windows down. And if it's still sort of lingering, then I'll always say something to the passenger and be like, hey, just by the way, sorry, my last passenger really stunk. Kind of make it kind of a joke. So then that way they don't think like, hey, this guy's car smells like shit, or this guy been token up, in between rides, because it can potentially, the scary thing about the marijuana, we've heard from drivers who actually, they had passengers who smelled of marijuana, and then a later passenger reported them to Uber. And so you imagine you're Uber, you get a report from a passenger, this driver smelled like marijuana. What are they going to do? They're going to temporarily deactivate the driver while they investigate. Now, their process when they do that is really a crap process, but you kind of want to avoid that situation in the first place. So definitely kind of proactively, say something to your next passenger. And also one little tip that I've found is get out of the car. If you want to check on a smell, because you're going to get used to the smell. So get out of the car. Let's say you have someone that really reeks, you drive around, and then while you're waiting for your next passenger, get out of the car, get like 30 seconds of fresh air, get back into the car, and then see if the smell is there. And that's a good way to tell if, you've kind of successfully cleaned out your car or not. So that's kind of something that I use, and especially in LA, I feel like that's an issue. Shannon says, hey, bud, your car smells like MJ. Yeah, my last passenger smelled. Not much I can do. The problem is, though, that your next passenger isn't going to always say, hey, why does your car smell like marijuana? They might just report it to Uber. And, I think most people, especially in a place like California, they understand there's probably another passenger. But if you get like a really uptight passenger, they could blame it on you. So that's the only thing. I mean, kind of make a joke out of it. It's really not a big deal. But I think definitely something to keep an eye on. Sammy says, have you addressed the price fixing lawsuits against Lyft? Numerous of articles that are easily Googled. To be honest, I'm not sure which lawsuits you're referring to, Sammy. That might be something, if you want to discuss it more, maybe we can chat over email. There's a lot of lawsuits. I'm sure I've heard of it, but, let's see. We got a few more minutes left, so get your last questions in. David says, what is the link to that article? Not sure which article. Mr. Watson says, did you see that Cargo and Uber teamed up? By the way, how is your Cargo doing? I mean, I've gone out with the Cargo box. Christian has gone out with the Cargo box, and I would say that it definitely, it's a novelty item right now. And so if you don't mind having a little box in your car, it's definitely a way to make a few extra bucks. I mean, it's not going to be the difference between you, making, thousands of dollars extra a month, but I think it's definitely doable to make $100 or a couple $100. Cargo is also offering, a ton of bonuses right now. Every time I get all these notifications whenever I sell items, and then I get a $5 bonus, and then a $10 bonus, and a $15 bonus. So definitely, an opportunity to make money with the Cargo. So the Cargo box. And Ronald says, do you use the Aon accident insurance? No, I don't, because I have rideshare insurance, and I also have health insurance through my wife. So I think I'm sort of pretty much protected in anything that might come up. And so yeah, that's Cargo. I'll leave a link. I think I have a link for Cargo. Get Cargo. And I'll leave a link right now if you guys want to sign up with our affiliate link. Simplify, looks like Simplify just donated $5.55, so that's awesome. The super chats are getting higher and higher. Maybe we'll even get to $6 on the next one, so I appreciated that. Christian says, Cargo is good stuff. Cece, what is Cargo? Cargo is a box. So I have it in the other room, I think, but it's basically kind of like a box that you put on your center console, and it's see-through, and the company sends it to you for free. They send you a bunch of snacks. I just got a big delivery of Swedish fish, which was kind of awesome. I've been eating those, and basically passengers can either purchase snacks, and then some of the snacks or little gadgets or chargers or whatever are free, and you get paid every single time someone either cashes in on the free item or a paid item. You get a little bit more. So pretty cool way for drivers to make more money, and they just partnered with Uber. So I suspect that we're going to see a lot more of Cargo in the future. So take advantage of it right now, before every driver is using it. Let's see. Rich, why doesn't Uber and Lyft let customers schedule XL rides? That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't ever personally, I don't have an XL vehicle, and I've never personally tried, but I mean, it sounds like you're not able to, and it seems like that would be a good use, because I mean, early morning airport rides, maybe that's something that we can suggest. We do a yearly article where features that Uber and Lyft should add. That might be something we suggest. And let's see. Yeah, Weinstein says, it's amazing how many items there are in Uber but aren't available in the smaller markets. So for example, Cargo, Beacon, maybe even the new Uber driver app. Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely unfortunate that Uber and even companies like Cargo typically launch in, markets, the bigger markets, frankly, where they're doing more business, or they might pilot it there. But, I think be patient, and eventually they do come. But for example, with like Beacon, there's other things that you can buy. You can buy third-party signs that help with that and really achieve sort of the same thing. I mean, if you're really entrepreneurial, I mean, you can talk to Cargo drivers and figure out which items are selling the best, and then go buy those items yourself, put a little Venmo sticker up in your car, and then you can sell them directly to passengers yourself. You know what I mean? So I think that you can really see what ideas are working out there. And if you're in a smaller market, you sometimes have to be creative. You got to hustle, right? I mean, I'm sure that your rent is a lot lower. I'm sure that you guys are paying a lot lower for housing, for example, in a small market out in the middle of the country versus someone in LA or San Francisco. So try to take advantage of that, and you may not be able to make as much or get some of these extra features, but there are things you can do to recreate that, if that's your thing. It may not be for everyone, but I know that's what I would be doing to help out. Jonathan, looks like Jonathan just gave an extra $2, or I don't know, $2. I don't know what was the amount, Jonathan. Was it 2 or 6? I see both, but thank you either way. So that's awesome. And Mario says, what's up, Harry? What's up? Good to see you. And Mr. Mom Vlog says, does a rating a passenger or 3 or less still block them from getting matched with you again? So on Lyft, yes. On Uber, though, they didn't always have this policy, but I've heard on Uber that if you now rate a passenger either 3 or lower or 2 or lower, it's not an official policy, but I did see, I posted something on Twitter and an Uber employee replied to me on Twitter and said, hey, we have this new policy that won't match you if you rate, I believe, 3 or lower or 2 or lower. So it's just like Lyft, but that may be what happened. So Jonathan, I think the amount was $2 and then you wrote $6 as the comment, but either way, thank you, sir. And Christy says, are you a charger for Bird scooters? I just learned about the company. Yes, I am a charger, and I've been doing it pretty frequently, actually. It's a pretty fun gig. We've got a lot of content on signing up to be a charger, which I'll leave a link to right now if you guys are interested. But basically, if you guys don't know what Bird is, it's a company that has dockless electric scooters, and they're launching. I think they're in like 30 or 40 cities right now, and they're hiring chargers, and the pay is actually pretty good. It's definitely part-time, but they pay $5 to $20 per scooter for you to go out, pick up these scooters, charge them at home, and then release them in the morning. And the company's really blowing up, so there's a lot of opportunity with that. So looks like David got in on the super chat, $2. Thanks for the Rideshare guy hat. So sounds like you may have been a winner before. John says, do you have a YouTuber that you like to watch? Yeah, I've been checking out a couple of videos from Uber Driver 101. I think I shared a link to his YouTube earlier. One of his videos earlier. I think his name is Uber Driver 101. So he's got some good videos that have been popping onto my feed that I've been checking out. And I know there are a couple others, but yeah. So hopefully that is helpful. And okay, Jonathan, $4 more, $6. You win, Jonathan. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. So that's awesome. I appreciate it. All right. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of another glorious hour, and I appreciate you guys. Right now, let's do a quick book giveaway. If you guys do want to enter to win a copy of my new book, I'll give away 3 copies of the Rideshare Guide. Hopefully, if someone has won a copy before, they can chime in on the comments right now so that you guys know that I'm actually giving away and sending books. But trust me, I am. And I think in order to enter, you need to send me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com. And why don't you let me know what's a video, since we're on YouTube right now, why don't you send me an idea for a video that you would like us to record? Maybe there's a topic you want to learn more about, a policy, a company, whatever it might be. Send me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com, subject line YouTube Live, and then give me your best idea for what do you want to see as a video. And then who knows, someday in the near future, you may see me talking about this item. So if you guys couldn't tell, basically, I'm making you do the work for me right now, so I don't have to think up new YouTube video ideas. I want you guys to do the work for me. Elijah says, say hi to me, or I hate the video. Hi, Elijah. So your driver Mike says, hello all, lime juicing has been good in San Diego. I know your driver Mike is another YouTuber. He's got a bunch of good content right now about lime and Bird. Although we do have a survey out right now that I think a lot of chargers say they prefer Bird over lime, Mike. So you can let me know what your experience is between the two of them. And yeah, the 1 hour went by very quick. So I really appreciate everyone who joined. Like I said, if this was your first time joining in, definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up right now if you liked it. There's 117 people still watching, so that's awesome. I really appreciate everyone who joined, and you guys can go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. If not, let me know in the comments below. And I guess since I'm giving away my book, someone asked for the link to the book. You can find it on Amazon. I was in a Barnes & Noble the other day in LA, and I signed a few copies. So if you guys are at the Grove Barnes & Noble, you'll actually see that there are a few copies there that I signed. And yeah, it's awesome. I appreciate everyone that came on, and we'll do it again next month. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and then that way you'll be notified when we go live. But typically it's 5 p.m. Pacific. Today we went an hour early just to mix things up. But yeah, and then as mentioned, this, right now the sponsor of this channel is Rideshare Night, and so they're a company that's offering extended vehicle and service contracts. So if you guys are interested in checking them out and getting a quote, I'm going to leave a link right now in the top in the chat, and you guys can check out Rideshare Night. And it's definitely always good if you guys, we're trying to find companies that are beneficial to drivers and support what we're doing. I appreciate everyone who gave the super chat, and also big thanks to Christian for being in the comments and answering all your questions. All right, make sure you guys send me those emails, harry@therideshareguy.com, if you want to enter to win one of my books. We'll be giving away 3 subject line YouTube live, and then let me know what idea you have for a video. And I think we've got the perfect ending right here, because Paul just super chatted $9.99. So I think I'm rich now. I'm going to go out and blow all the money that you guys just super chatted me. Awesome. Thanks. See you guys next month, and bring all the good questions again. Enjoyed it. Thank you.